What is going on, wrestling fans? Welcome to the Tapped In Indie Wrestling Podcast. I am your host, Heath Mulligan, joined by Nick McDaniel. Nick, how are you doing today, my brother?
Good, man. It's a great weekend of wrestling this week. A lot of shows going on this week that we will, of course, talk about somewhere else on another show. All that kind of
Yes.
stuff. But really good.
So don't forget, fans, obviously you can watch this show on YouTube, but if you want to see the weekly Georgia Wrestling Spotlight, you need to go over to patreon.com/tap.pod. It is absolutely free. You can sign up for a free account, but while you're at it, why don't you become a paid member? Lots of behind the scenes stuff, lots of news, and even more news and articles that are coming out pretty much daily now. So you get access to all of that. And so it's a great value because it's free. So watch this show, and then on Patreon you can watch the Georgia Wrestling Spotlight. We've split it up into two shows. If you've been living under a rock, this show, the Tapped In show, gives us space for really more analysis. We can really go a little bit deeper because, as Nick said, there's so many shows that in order to talk about the shows that just happened and the shows that are coming up, it didn't leave a lot of wiggle room to really do deep dives into Georgia wrestling. And there are certain topics that we want to get into, and this show gives us the space to do that.
Yeah, it's more big picture. Look, there were 11 shows this past weekend. I think there's another 7 or 8 this coming up weekend. Like, if you think trying to cover, that's what, 18, 19 shows to try to cover. It's hard enough to squeeze that into an hour. Like, you're pretty much rapidly going through them, hitting major highlights out of those. And look, the promotions that participate, that's why I do the what's your A story, what's your B story.
Right.
If we got time, we'll go over there all the matches. If not, can't help it. Sorry, it's just some crazy weeks. So,
and also, fans, if you become a paying patron, you get access to all the show notes, and every single show there is stuff we don't get to. It is well worth the value, so make sure you become a patron today. Our top story jumping in is the story from Next Level Championship Wrestling. They had their debut in Augusta, Georgia. They're at the American Legion. This was called Episode 1. Larry Goodman has a very good report over at Georgia Wrestling History. Nick, the story from this one, and we'll get into the wrestling a little bit. We talked about, this show was originally scheduled for, I believe, January 25th. Their building was not going to be ready, so they had to reschedule, which they already had a show scheduled in February that they moved. And now they're moving to a new building, and the attendance was right around 100, depending on who you talk to. And so after having a run by IWE where they were drawing upwards of 500 at one point, it tapered off last year. If you're Josh Fields today, what are you thinking?
I'm going to hit the pause button there because I'm going to do what we do best. And I'm going to ask something that I thought of literally as you were just speaking.
Yeah.
So we could all sit here and go the whys and we would all give our expert analysis of why we think it happened.
Right.
And I just randomly was sitting here and thinking, you're right. Because here's the thing. It was in the 5s, and it was the 4s, and it was the 3s. Then they were in the 2s. And then they just, look, I'm not saying they didn't have every right reason or anything. From a fan's perspective, outside looking in, people have to remember, they're not in the bubble. They're just fans.
Yeah.
They were heading to the biggest show. They were, the biggest show
ever.
in history.
Their biggest show ever.
Biggest show ever. And IW just went away.
Yeah.
So my logic might be, look, I don't think anybody's probably happy with the number. I'm not delusional here. But my question and the reasoning behind it, could it be And I'm not saying brand confidence. And listen, I'm about to own some, maybe I was wrong. I thought moving in that building was the right thing. And I still, by the way, will, even if I'm wrong, I'm stubborn. I'm like, I still think it probably was the right thing, but I might question myself today going, did people question the wrestling in that building in hindsight? Did they lose brand confidence? Even though it's not the same brand, it's wrestling in the Legion might be what they saw.
Well, and here's the thing, too. There have been, how can I be kind when I say, there have been other promotions that ran in the American Legion building and did not draw well at all. And so I think IWE had done a tremendous job of showing a successful wrestling promotion could be run in that building. Yeah, there could be a million reasons. Josh Fields definitely was hustling and promoting the show. And this is one of those things it might not be just one thing. There might be 20 reasons. I don't think, they've already got the next show scheduled. I think they're going to push through. They've got great sponsors. I think Fields has a lot of determination. And I think they're just going to plow through and keep going and try to improve on that number.
And look, and I'm going to jump all over the notes here because that's what we like to do, right? So when Next Level was first announced, IWE was in the picture.
Mm-hmm.
Viral was in the picture. Phoenix was running, and we asked ourselves, how many promotions could survive in Augusta?
Yes.
Backpedal up. How many could thrive in Augusta? I think a ton. You could survive if you control your budgets and you control all your expenses, all that kind of stuff. Sure.
Mm-hmm.
But now when we kind of pull back a little bit and we look, it's like as Viral and Phoenix seized that opportunity of those months with there wasn't 4. There were down to 3, and then I was like, oh, technically, kind of, sort of. I know. I'm calling it. There were 2 big shows running there.
Mm-hmm.
Did they seize that opportunity? Because one's running bi-monthly, one's running a little more regularly, but they do their thing and they're different.
Yeah.
Did they just seize the market when it was there to be taken? So, and I say all that to say, now Josh has to. Like, okay, now the work starts. Now we start chopping some wood, and now we start either pulling or creating a new audience, that doesn't exist going to those other 2, maybe.
Right. You're either trying to pull fans who are also going to Phoenix and Viral, or you're trying to get fans that watch WWE and really, really like it, but they're not going to other independent shows. It's also going to be interesting. We were talking about this over the weekend. I think that there's a couple of dates where Next Level and Viral are running the same night, minutes apart. And what's that going to look like, talent wise and crowd wise? So that'll be the true test. Is on those nights where if I'm a wrestling fan in Augusta and I have to make a decision, that's where you're really gonna. That's where it could really get interesting.
So one of the things that we saw and heard, people were telling us, we read, etc., that part of it was like newcomers weren't getting the reaction, that people didn't know who they were. So, and by the way, this is not like a Next Level problem. We see this everywhere. I mean, I always tell people, like, I've had conversations with wrestlers their first night at Southern Honor and said, just go, don't worry about it. When you come out, you're not going to get a reaction. They're like, no. I'm like, no, you're not. Stop. I've only seen like a handful get one, but just a regular wrestler. Nobody that's like, if it didn't happen in this order, if Cruel walked out and nobody knew who he was, he'd get a reaction. There's a reason. but you're just your typical, and I mean, I don't mean that disrespectfully. Your typical wrestler's going to walk out. They're not going to get one. I'm like, go out there and get it. Don't expect it from the get go. It just doesn't happen here. They're a casual, more casual, etc. Whatever. So kind of the same here. So my question was, you have to do it. So if you're going to, you just got to be dedicated. You got to be patient, stick with it, and build them. Like, look, if they didn't know who Hakeem Young was, they do after this show.
Right.
And so going forward, like, look, it's just let it organically happen. Just keep pushing and plowing ahead. And I hope that's what Josh has that persistency to do, is to go, okay, but maybe there's a lesson to be learned. Maybe we trim back the card a little bit. Maybe we do, little changes here and there. Hey, maybe I only need 2 referees. I don't need 3, like that kind of stuff. But look, that's a business thing. That's for him to determine, not for us. That's just us talking out loud.
I don't know if it's just a Georgia, South Carolina thing. It is a lot more common in South Carolina to run a show with 1 referee than Georgia. I don't know that most Georgia shows have 6 or 7 referees. Sometimes it seems like. But yeah, so again, it's your first show. Let's talk about.
Can I be positive about it?
Yeah.
And this is a weird way to look at this. There's always about, like, hey, there's a first impression. If you had a rocky first start, and we get a couple hiccups here and there, whatever, 100 people saw it. 500 didn't see it.
Right.
Go win the rest of them. Get them back, and just keep promoting and doing your thing. Look, we questioned it. Was there a little bit of a loss of momentum because it was so long?
Yeah.
And look, I don't know if that's true or not, but could it be? Maybe. We're gonna find. Look, we're gonna find out. That's all I can say. I think it's March 29th when they're back.
Yeah. One thing we talked about last week on this show was that you only get 1 chance to make a first impression. And from reading, again, we haven't seen the show yet. I think it's going to be on YouTube or somewhere. But from Larry's report, a tournament was started, the 6 Scrolls tournament, where you win a scroll. You can win a scroll by winning a match, or those scrolls can change hand by other means. You also had some of these scroll matches were 3-way matches, and some of these were 1-on-1. So that kind of throws me off. Here's who won. Rob Killjoy won his 3-way match. Rico Gonzalez. Chase Emery won by disqualification, but Hakeem Young stole the scroll. And then Skrilla won in a 3-way match. Those were all the 6 Scrolls tournament. Of those 4 guys, and I guess throw Hakeem Young's name in there because he stole the scroll. Those are pretty solid singles wrestlers.
Yeah.
To have as your first champion.
Yeah, Chase Emery better than I do. Honestly, I'm probably, look, no disrespect to the other people on the list, just because of closeness, maybe. I think in the familiarity with that base with Rob Killjoy, I could see that being, because look, rumor was, from my understanding, that's who IWE was going to be built around going forward.
Yes.
So why not? If he's a hot hand, literally go with it and run with it and make him your first champion, I guess. I mean, granted, it's only one show. We haven't seen all the other participants and all that kind of stuff. But if you're talking out of those 4, I mean, I would think Rob Killjoy. Would you agree? I mean, that's who I would go with.
Yeah, I think I would kind of leave it open-ended because, like you said, Rob Killjoy was way over with the IWE crowd. Is this the IWE crowd, or is this a totally new audience? We don't know what the reactions were. I'm assuming Rob Killjoy always gets a reaction.
Yeah,
but I think
Skrilla was over there,
so right?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a tough one to say. Like, I wouldn't say not put it on him either. But honestly, you know what? I take it back. That's who probably I go with.
The Skrilla.
Yeah.
He was, he was the Mayhem champion there at IWE and definitely over, did a lot of good work. One of the things that I had heard through the grapevine or whatever was that this show was completely different than the original one they had booked. Like a lot of the matches had changed. And I wonder if that changes the talents that they were looking to kind of build around.
Well, here's the thing. I could see that happening, and as crazy as it sounds, is because wouldn't they have been kind of a little bit off cycle from the weekends? Because it was the 25th,
Right.
And then it ran on the 15th. People ask me like, why? What are you talking about? Promotions like to run like one promotion runs on the first and the third month or the week of the month, or some run the second week. So they're pretty consistent. It's not the date they're concerned with; it's the weekend of the month that they typically run. And if they went from like they were running on the third or fourth or whatever, and then they were running on the second, that puts them off cycle. A lot of those talents could have been booked on because it was only a month away. They could have been booked on that, and it probably threw everything off. So I'd heard that same thing, and I was like, I think maybe people are reading into that a little more than because I'm so familiar with the calendar that I'm sitting there going like, well, that literally puts them on a different. You know what I mean? Because look, when they go from the 25th to the 15th, they're off weeks of the month. Because when they're coming back on the 29th, that puts them back on their original. It sounds like on that 25th, 29th, that puts them back on their schedule they were on. So we'll see. Let's look at how different the roster looks in episode 2 than 1, and that would probably explain a lot.
Yeah. Again, it's your first show, room to grow, room to improve. But again, next level, trying to kind of, really make their mark. And listen, running a wrestling show is hard. Starting a wrestling promotion is hard. This is something Josh Fields has been looking to do for some time, and you did it. Like, no matter what happened, you did it. A lot of people talk about doing it. A lot of people dream about doing it. You did it. And so kudos all the way just for that.
And you will learn more from and I'm not saying the show's a failure, by the way. Mistakes and things, you will learn a whole lot more going forward. I think he'll be better. He'll be better for it now. He'll, know, okay, I can't do this, can't do that, blah, 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 blah. A lot of lines, a lot of boxes are checked off now. And, it's a lot of times when you do something for the first time, it's just, like you said, even if you know, you don't know everything. It happens. Stuff's going to come up.
That's right. Moving on to our second story. You were there Saturday night, Turnbuckle Championship Wrestling with what you think is their biggest show yet at Tannery Row Ale House. But here's the big thing. Turnbuckle has gone from being spot shows with wonderful talent and good matches, but now they're starting to get into some storytelling and some angles. Starting tonight, Luke Sampson defending that Nightmare Championship against Jack Jameson. You were there Saturday night. How is the energy and how's the new Turnbuckle looking now?
It's intriguing. Like we've heard about it. I've been telling people about it. Like it was a thing for me, man. I was motivated going because we kept talking about how many shows they run, and everybody would like, how are they not up for best promotion and all these, these awards or whatever. And everybody was like, well, they're just like you said, they're kind of like spot shows. They don't do stories and da 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 whatever. And I kept saying, okay, what are the masses gonna say when they run 60 plus shows? They're telling stories. The stories are actually going to be consistent through the 3 towns that they roll through on a regular basis. Like, what are you going to say then? Like, what's the excuse? All that being said, I say that because not only are the stories, like, they're in their infancy stages. We can see it because they're just starting. But some of them are, like, really exciting. I had a real quick side note. I had somebody that somebody that goes to a lot of wrestling shows, Not going to name them. Don't know that they want me to. Not my place to. But they walked over to me. Their words, not mine. They said, no one in the state of Georgia has the star power that Turnbuckle has. On any given night, you have no clue who will be there in wrestling. And look, and I know other promotions. Here's the thing. Other promotions have those connections and can use them. Notice those air quotes, can use them.
Yeah.
They don't regularly. That's the difference. Like AEW Women's Championship, and the Guns show up in Watkinsville. I'm there. Billy Gunn's there. Ring of Honor. It's Jack Jameson, Preston Vance, and Griff Garrison now have formed a team. I believe it's the Frat House. It's Frat. I mean, it could be Frat. I couldn't remember. I think it's Frat House. And those guys seemed like they were having fun in this new thing. Oh, they were having fun because, look, we'll get into all of the stuff that happened, but now this team attacks Carly Bravo post-match, but then another team makes the save. You got to check into the Georgia Wrestling Spotlight to get all the details on it. We're just trying to get the point across here. If Carly Bravo's fit into a story that you're running across your promotion, Billy Gunn was in the main, Brady Booker was in the main, Vari Morales is in the main, on and on and on. By the way, it looks like Vari and Brady are going to be a team.
What in the world?
Yeah.
What in the world?
It's going to be one of the tag teams. If they were to get together and they were a team all year long, they could be hands down. Here's what I'm telling people. They're good in the ring, but they also understand entertainment.
Yes.
And they are going to entertain you. And they did. Again, patreon.com/tappedoutpod. Check out the Georgia Wrestling Spotlight because I'm going to go into some details about, there were some fans in the building, their reactions and stuff. I want to save that for that show to go a little bit deeper. Yeah. Satnam Singh has a manager there and is a heel.
Yes. Yeah. You've got TV guys now not just showing up and being in an 8-man match, but going to be legitimate singles contenders and wrestlers at Turnbuckle.
Yeah, I'm excited, and if you're not and you haven't come out to see one of their shows, the kids were having a blast. I mean, it's they just, it's such a different vibe, and I don't even know the count. I'll have it at some point. It literally was full. Like it was one of the fullest. It was the fullest show in my, based on what I saw. I sent you a video of it that they've done at Tannery Row Ale House. It's one of the biggest crowds I've seen at Tannery Row Ale House. I mean, just to be honest with you, it was a massive crowd, awesome crowd. They were loud. They were into it. The stories were compelling. A lot of people, it was, like I said, lots of positive stuff to say. And that's kind of what I came back with. And I'm like, man, if they get to firing on all cylinders and they're bringing in guys left and right as surprises from Ring of Honor, AEW, whatever, is the excuse going to be then that, they don't count because they're using those guys?
I don't think, everybody can book the same people.
Yeah.
And so.
Well, hold on. And here's the other thing. I will come back with this, though. Brady Booker was the VIP meet and greet, and it was probably one of the longest lines I'd ever seen for a meet and greet.
Wow.
I'd put it up there with any of them. They could correct me and tell me that I'm out of my mind. It just appeared. I had a lot going on at the intermission. That's a whole other story for another day. But that's, but from when I peeked over there, dude, it was lined up and it was all the way back. It was Brady Booker, like he's drawn at the VIP meet and greet as though he was, Billy Gunn. So.
Yeah. You never know who's going to be at a Turnbuckle show. And now you never know what's going to happen at a Turnbuckle show. So make sure, again, you tune in this week, patreon.com/tappedoutpod to get all that. Let's talk about Saturday night, Southern Fried Championship Wrestling. Every time Matt Griffin Matt Griffin appears done at a promotion. He tries to get out. He gets pulled back in. Shows up at Southern Fried. Tries to make nice with Manders because of this benefit show coming up, which I want to talk a lot about that either today or tomorrow. And Matt Griffin hits him with a roll of quarters. What in the world? Matt Griffin is just wrecking havoc wherever he goes.
He calls himself the kingpin of wrestling in Georgia. I would compare Matt Griffin to a bad rash. Just when you think you got him beat and he's gone, he comes back. Walks in, and like I said, man, he is not humble. Let's put it this way. Dude has he's gonna show everybody. He's not letting it. He's never going to let it go that Manders knocked him out, and that's what this was all about.
Mm-hmm.
It's like his ego couldn't let it go and just stay away. He came back. And then to mock it in the situation that they were in, and we'll go into the whole details of what it happened specifically. But then to use a roll of quarters to knock out, just blasted David Manders, and the quarters go everywhere. It just goes to show you that Matt Griffin doesn't care. Look, he's up there in Southern Honor running. He's just running all over the place with Gunnar Miller up there. He's popping up at every single promotion we can think of. It just happens. He's going to be on another show that's coming up weekend. I'm like, dude, he's got his guys. That's part of the issue. He's got guys that he uses to kind of, he might be the king on the chessboard, but he's always got some other pieces out there, some knights and some, that he's at bishops and stuff that he's moving across the chessboard of Georgia wrestling. And here's the crazy part about it. This is the hardest part about all of it. It gets under your skin. It gets under your, it's annoying and all of those things. However, at the end of the day, there's lots of props you have to give him for everything that he's doing and achieving on the positive side of it. So it's almost like, can't you just be satisfied? And that answer is no. I don't even have to get to the whole question out. The answer is no.
No, he just continues to pop up everywhere. He had a great year in 2024, and they show no signs of slowing down. They've already had this show with 600 plus. So Matt Griffin and Action Wrestling are gonna be around here for the long haul.
Well, it's because hold on. It's not just because of the what he's. I'm trying to phrase this. It's not just what he does. It's also like what he does to help others achieve things. And you can probably tell I'm scrolling looking for something because I did get something. And, this just recently, what he pulled off is he got one called Manders and Priest were in Germany. They're in there, he got them that he's doing that in that 16 karat tournament. Like, that's the thing. Like, on one hand, you're one of like, hey, don't associate the guy. He's a bad guy. Can't you tell everywhere else he goes? But on the other hand, he's successfully helping guys navigate and, opening doors and opportunities for them all over. That's the hard part. That's the hard part with with Matt Griffin.
Yeah, he's and they've always been about making an impact beyond Georgia. And they're clearly doing that while also having a big impact in Georgia.
Right. Exactly.
Friday night is one that's been building to, and that is SCA Spectacle. And we wanted to dig deep. What they're doing is you got this feud between SCA and Apocalypse. Friday night, they're going to have 5 matches. Whoever gets the most wins is going to win control of SCA. You got an SCA title match, Scott Mason defending against Caleb Crocker. You got Luke Da Silva versus Jacob Ashworth. Ashworth looking to get his hands on Da Silva after Da Silva turned on him. Jaden Vane versus Drox. That's match number 3. Unrated versus Jackson Carter and Cliffhanger Chris. And then the one that was just announced, and this is one I want to dig into, John the Body Johnson and Jonathan Feltner will be getting in the ring and facing off one-on-one, and they could be the deciding match in this war.
Absolutely. Now, look, kudos to Feltner for putting his, hey, he's putting his money where his mouth is, right? He's like, listen, at the end, if it's tied, like I'm gonna put, I'm gonna be the guy who settles this. He's not gonna just put a bunch of guys out there in his place, and for him and JJ to go 1-on-1, and look, it's wrestling. We got a feeling, right? I got a feeling. Yeah, it's gonna happen. When you look at those other four, the split's not hard to see.
Mm-hmm.
I can sit there and go like, oh yeah, that goes that way, that goes that way, that goes that way. All right, these two are going to end up at. By the way, it has to. It just has to. I think what's exciting about it is that we've been building to this. We talked about the promo or the incident that happened at Viral last week a little bit. This is a big thing. I think this is it's one thing that we always talk about the other promotions that get all the pub. This is an opportunity for them. Like, this is how they're showing people they grow.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to draw every single week. There are other promotions that do it that they can't chug 35. It's like it's a big show when they get 50. Now These guys are up there. They're doing 70, 80, sometimes 100. I'm excited to see. We quietly, I guess me and you have kind of decided if our schedules are free Friday, this is it. Like, they're going to get us to come to Spectacle.
Yes, that's right.
On Friday night. Like, we're pumped. Like, hey, this is the show we're going to go see. And that's so. If I can say one thing about SCA, mission accomplished in that form. In that platform that you got us to decide. Like, all right, we want to see this. You got us, and that's a good thing. So I'm excited to see how this all plays out. But again, back to your point, JJ and Jonathan Feltner in the ring is going to be interesting. It's always a challenge to have, non-wrestlers in the ring. Trust me, I'm aware.
Were you surprised that they pulled the trigger on this so early?
No. Look, I have my thoughts about what'll happen, and so some people think, because here's the thing, you got to remember, it's because they're running weekly.
Mm-hmm.
If they were running monthly, I mean, this thing would have gone 6 to 9 months.
Right. Well, here's as I'm asking that question, here's what occurred to me. And maybe this is what they're thinking, maybe not. Feltner and Johnson know that they're not the stake. I mean, they're not wrestlers. Like, right. I think, could it be that their one-on-one match is not what people really want to see? Like, they're kind of getting this out of the way to build to. They're saying, hey, if we do this, then you're not thinking about, oh, when's this going to happen? But now they can build to something even bigger.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the thinking.
The only thing I disagree with, I think this is the match everybody wants to see.
Well, that's true too.
And I say that because that's what they're emotionally invested in. They want to see Feltner get his hands on, JJ after talking all of that trash about his family, his daughter, and him, and So I think and here's the thing, I don't think anybody's confused by the thought that they're going to go in there and they're going to be a lot of drop toe holds and arm drags, and I don't think people think that's coming. If you are, don't put that expectation on it. It's not going to happen.
Listen, I'm going to pay my money Friday night, and I better see a daggum drop toe hold.
Exactly. But yeah, I just think that's what they're paying for. I just think there's a lot of meat on this bone even after this. Yes. So to say like, hey, did they rush to get there? Nah. Again, I think being weekly, that's a big part of it. Because if you think about it, if it's going for 3 months, that's 12 shows.
Yeah.
That's a year if you're running monthly.
Yeah.
So I'm all for it, but I think there's a lot of stuff you can do long term with it, one way or the other, for that matter.
I will say kudos to SCA, because this is, since at least as long as I've been watching wrestling, it's always a heel faction versus the promotion. This is the story of wrestling. So far, SCA has been able to be different than I'm not saying they're not going to end up in a War Games match like it
Like
happens in other
everybody.
places.
It's Georgia, right?
Right. But so far, I like the feel of this. I like this 5-match thing. Because they're weekly, they've been building that all of these matches have some build. That's pretty
They
impressive.
make sense. They make sense that these matches are happening. That's the one.
Yes.
And like I said, if you were a typical promotion, by the way, it's not 5 matches that make the determination. We already have a War Games that's going to determine it. And then, by the way, we're going to get another one to get it out of it. That's not a shot at anybody. That's just what happens.
Right. Yeah.
So this is probably the War Games match in most places, and they just came up with a creative way to get around it, like to do it different than.
Again, kudos to SCA, and I'm sure off air we'll be talking about our travel plans for that. Let's get into something we have not done in a while, but I'm excited to have this conversation tonight. Let's talk about underrated and underappreciated. Patent pending, copyright pending there. This is where we look at talents in Georgia that maybe have flown a little under the radar, or maybe if they haven't, you really don't truly appreciate them for what they're doing. And the first name right here, Vari Morales, always looks like a star in his appearance, always has great matches. But you even talked Saturday night, there was a lot of things that set him apart.
He was the different Dan, and it's in a very, very positive way. I said to somebody, think about this. He's in a match, at a 6-man match with Preston Vance, Griff Garrison, Jack Jameson, Billy Gunn, Brady Booker. Look, they're all different. They all have their own, but then you had Vari Morales. You kind of go like, okay, one of these things is not like the other. And then when he got into the ring and started moving, I was even like, one of these things moves different than all of these other. He is flying like at a whole different gear, and it's just drop fly. And actually, I'll spoil some of what I was going to do on the spotlight. I was going to talk about it, but in that match, I was like, how impressive is it that Vari Morales looks like a star in a match filled with guys who were built like, WWE, AEW. Sorry, one of them is an AEW wrestler. 3 of them are Ring of Honor wrestlers. So, I mean, that's kind of a thing. And he still like separated himself. That there were like people in the group that I was in that were like, I got to get a picture with that guy. Like that. So, and that's, by the way, not like a wrestling fan. They were casual. Like, I want a picture with that guy. And I'm like, we'll make that happen, and then so I had to chase him down to get a picture for some people. And that was like, that's what I mean when I tell people of like, if you can, if you can appeal to a non-wrestling fan, that's a win.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. He's an integral part of Disruptor, Turnbuckle, and Monday Nightmares. But outside of that, going to be in Vegas WrestleMania weekend.
Can you
with
believe
Dragon Gate? That's pretty awesome. And then he's going to be,
because I talked to him about that. I was like, dude, I mean, Dragon Gate's a big deal. I mean, Dragon Gate's been around for a long time. I wanted to really drive that home to people that like, hey, this isn't some, I'm just working a random indie and whatever. No, you got booked on if you get booked at Dragon Gate on WrestleMania weekend in Las Vegas, that's kind of where we get out of like, that tells you the level of this guy. But for whatever reason, he's not booked at a lot of other places.
Yes. He's also going to be in Denver for a Lucha promotion. He is just such a talented guy. And we think underrated and underappreciated in Georgia. Here's the second one. This may be a name people are surprised are on this list, and that is Jacob Ashworth. As we were getting the show notes ready today, I was thinking he's got this match with Luke Da Silva on Friday. Jacob, and what I'm about to say, I mean as the highest compliment. Jacob Ashworth is a plug and play babyface that any promotion in Georgia, you bring in Jacob Ashworth, you put him in there with somebody, the person you've put him in there with is automatically elevated as a heel because people, even if they've never seen Jacob Ashworth, the music, the feel, the vibe, he is someone fans connect with. He is someone fans get behind. And when SCA is doing this apocalypse angle and they need Luke Da Silva to turn heel, who do they bring in? They bring in Jacob Ashworth because when Luke Da Silva turned on him, it meant something. And that speaks to the drawing power, that speaks to the appeal of Jacob Ashworth.
Yeah, 1,000%. Look, Jacob Ashworth has been. We have said time and time again, if you were doing a promotion in the Northeast corridor area of Georgia, hands down, one of your first picks has to be Jacob Ashworth. That's he just is. He will draw for you. Those crowds love him, and he, like I said, anywhere. And I always say, if you took a line from 985 and just went across all the way down to about 20, like that in that area, that's Jacob Ashworth country there. And that's 1,000% take him.
Yeah. Here's another one. Two guys, Elia Drago and Brady Booker. Two guys who look like $1 million. They both been on Ring of Honor. And they're both, they know who they are. They know what they do. And that's what they do. They are about entertaining the fans. I've never seen one of their matches that wasn't entertaining. It may not have pleased certain wrestling journalists or whatever on the West Coast who were giving out stars, but to the little kid in the front row, to the woman who is looking at these guys, they're sheer entertainment.
I tell people two things. One, from the heel perspective, Drago knows who he is, and he's got he does. He just looks every bit of the part, of that Ukrainian monster. They got the physique. He's just cutting through guys left and right. Brady, on the other hand, he's out there high-fiving the little kids and, getting them all riled up and getting them fired up for the matches. And post-match, he's taking pictures with kids. That's why everybody loves it. It's just the energy. And I literally had, again, this group of people that I was with, particularly that were not wrestling fans that were at this show this past week. I had 3 of them come up to me and go, "Why is that guy not signed? Like, why does he not wrestle on the?" And I'm like, okay, he's been there. It's like it has happened. Mm-hmm. And by the way, it'll be sooner than later. It'll probably be happened. But there's a Patreon probably for that someday. Who knows?
Yes. Yes. These guys, if you can pay them, you should book them because they bring an energy. Brady Booker in particular brings this infectious energy. And when he comes through the curtain, the temperature in the room changes. It's pretty.
One of the biggest compliments, and I'm going to ask you this: is this a big compliment? This is what I think about Brady Booker. He's either in your main or he's opening your show.
Yeah.
He's either taking the crowd and like a rocket ship and bringing them up quick and getting them into everything, or he's in the main and he's sending them home happy. One of those two. He could do a lot of other, when you have your come down mat, he can bring them back. But for me, I'm like, Brady's either starting my show on fire or he's main eventing my show. Like, that's where I think he is. That's his wheelhouse.
Yeah, just one of the MVPs for Turnbuckle's current run for sure. Next, underrated, underappreciated. Sal Renaro and Sunny Days, who are back, in particular in Southern Fried and other places. Now they're with Marv in Southern Fried. So you kind of got this off kilter, weird group again. Um, they're very talented. This was a tag team that came out of nowhere. It was a pairing we really didn't see coming, but it's a pairing that has really worked. And now we're seeing the other side of Happy Madness.
Yeah, they were in a larger faction, in Southern
Right.
Honor when they were
Yes.
heels. But now I think they're going to get a more of a freedom, even with Marv in that picture. I just think people, when I say underappreciated, underrated or whatever, the mind of the two part, the Marv as well, by the way. So here's the danger with that group. Those three are all veterans. They don't just get like, you got a guy who can do anything in the ring. Sal, I always tell people, can wrestle any style, anytime, any place, doesn't matter. But the minds of the three of those guys are going to make. Anyway. I can't reiterate enough. That's why they're underrated and underappreciated, is because the total mind for the business collectively, they are going to be dangerous.
Yes, and again, when you bend over as baby faces in one way, you've done one thing. The risk as a performer to go the opposite way, to go from kind of being, hey, we're crazy, to, hey, we're insane, we're going to hurt some people. That's fun to watch. And I really am. It's really disappointing when more wrestlers, they get kind of in a rut and they don't explore other things.
And by the way, and have merch on night one.
Yes. Yes. Take my money. I definitely want to get one of those. Finally, underrated, underappreciated. These folks, we've been on their bandwagon since the start. Phoenix Wrestling Experience. They drew over 300 on was that Thursday night?
A Thursday night show, yeah.
What in the world? So you have, in the span of 7 days, in Augusta, within 7 minutes of each other, we've mapped it out. Viral draws, 200 plus on Saturday. Phoenix draws 300 plus on Thursday. And Next Level's at 100. That's 600 people. I mean, I'm sure there was some crossover people who went to more than one of those. That's 600 people watching wrestling in Augusta in a 7-day period. And Phoenix Wrestling Experience, they just made the announcement today they're having to reschedule their huge stadium show that was scheduled for this week. We'll have more on that tomorrow. But they just kind of have found their niche and they've stayed in their lane and they've been successful.
Yeah, and again, great podcasting. I'm looking for something. I have news. Okay, it has been announced. Sorry, I didn't want to break news on the show.
No, sorry, I saw it announced before when we were messing around before the show.
Okay,
I saw it go out. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, it's literally. I just wanted to make sure. They had their big ballpark show coming up. It has officially been moved to March the 20th. I do see it. I just wanted to make sure I didn't put anything out there. We were told about it. I didn't want to break that story before they had an opportunity to post it. So they have. But like to even go like, we're just so different in the presentation and then the everything that they do, to take the look. We talked about it with Next Level, right? Mm-hmm. To have the cojones to actually go like, we're going to run a baseball field.
Right.
Like that's, okay. But on one hand, you're kind of like, but what if? Don't live in the fear, man. Take the opportunity, take the chance, and they're going to. And, but it is why, here's the thing. All the gambles they've been taking, they're paying off. Let's go with that.
Yes. I would say Phoenix in a year, and I would if I'm next level, I would take this as an encouragement because Phoenix has only been around a year. They built a loyal fan base. They have a great connection with their audience. So I'd say next level, you just got to give it some time. You got to do the work. Not many harder working than Cowboy James Hunter, who we had on the show very early on in Phoenix's run. But yeah, they're doing really great things, and now they're starting. Hey, we've done this. Now they're starting to take a risk, and I like that.
Well, now that we're wrapped up with the underrated and appreciated, I'm going to do something we have never ever done on the podcast.
Oh my!
Before you get to Patreon, literally 30 minutes as of recording, 30 minutes ago, Gary Lamb put a post up.
Oh.
It's in reference to Next Level. We're going to go wrap full circle.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks I'm going to read what Gary Lamb said.
Okay.
And I'm waiting for everybody because you think he's going to say what he's going to say. I want to wrap it up. This might be a Patreon, but I want you to hear this.
Yeah.
He quoted Larry Goodman's report, basically saying that it's in the books. It was competently executed. It's there. The show talent roster is first rate. Match quality ranged from good to outstanding. At the end of the night, Next Level's debut felt like just another show. It didn't make Next Level Championship Wrestling a distinctive brand or provide compelling enough reasons to come back. Mm-hmm. That's Larry Goodman. That's a quote from in his report. Here's where it gets interesting. I'm going to read all of this, so bear with me. This is Gary Lamb. So much truth in this paragraph. This is the problem with all of Georgia wrestling, Southern Honor included. 6 years ago, we upped the bar. You could argue that fact, but you would be wrong. The issue is 6 years later, most promotions look like what we were doing 6 years ago, and Southern Honor looks the same too. There's no distinction between promotions, storyline, performers, technology. 6 years ago, all these shows would have looked unlike anything around. Now we all look the same. I've had this discussion over and over with our team. The first one of us to figure out how to do it different while keeping the same level of excellence will be the new kings until everyone starts mimicking them and they don't change. But this is clear. He wanted to be clear. By the way, this is not a shot at Next Level Championship Wrestling or Josh Fields at all. It's just the reality for all of us right now. That has been something we have said time about. The posters look the same. The talents looks the same. Everybody can do production now. Everybody's got film. Everybody's got cameras. Everybody. What are you going to do to be different? And that's, Gary, look, I don't mean to do that often, but I wanted you to get your reaction live as I saw it come across my feed.
Listen, Gary Lamb is basically saying what we say the 30 minutes before we hit record every week. This poster looks the same. This show looks the same. Again, and it's changed over the years. The people who, and listen, I get guys working multiple promotions, but there's been an explosion of wrestlers, an explosion of promotions. But every show feels the same. That's what I think is what's been unique about Turnbuckle.
Yeah. When
I go into a Turnbuckle show, it's a different vibe.
It's different fans for the most part. It's a different. And by the way, people may look give me pushback on what I'm about to say. Next week we're going to dive deep in Disruptors returning. The following week they'll be back on the 28th. They'll be back in Buford at Tannery Row. Talk about different. They have a totally different roster than pretty much everybody else. If they can get the tweaks here and there that they need to fix as well. Because here's the thing, by the way, we could sit here all day long and tell every promotion the things that we think they need to tweak and fix. Nobody, bold statement from Nick, right? Nobody in Georgia's running the perfect show.
Right.
You're just not. If you think you are, you're part of the problem why your show's not. I mean, really, think about it. If you think, I can't tell you, and look, I'll say about us. We have had shows that everybody's like, hey, that was really good, whatever, and I have trashed it when we were done recording it. Have I not? I'm like, dude, that just didn't feel, I don't know, something was off.
Yeah.
It just happens, and I'm never satisfied. We will never cut the perfect show. It won't happen. It'll be something with, I don't like the way this graphic looks anymore. I got to change it. Or I don't like the way this intro looks. I got to change it. Something. the audio wasn't like I wanted it to be. That I was too low, you were too high. But whatever, doesn't
We're
matter.
constantly pushing, and it feels like it feels like. And again, when Southern Honor came in, they anyone who disputes this, you're wrong. Southern Honor shook up Georgia wrestling
Yeah.
on every level. You had a promoter who came in, he wasn't playing nice with everybody. You had a new booker. You had production at a whole nother level. You had all that. You had some violence, anger. You got one of their wrestlers getting a concussion from a trash can being thrown in the ring because that was the emotion they elicited from their fans.
Yeah.
You had Chris Jericho and Kenny. I mean,
It was not unusual for Dallas Page or Raven or anybody. It was more often. Now look, the problem. It was awesome, and I'm with you. There was a stretch there. They were undisputed, hands down, the best promotion because they were doing everything like they were nailing it. They were on fire. Were there
right.
things to make improved? Sure, whatever. But there were a lot of things. But it's also, by the way, when people weren't filming, there were more, there was all these little things that other promotions. Now we're back into the wheelhouse of who's the best. Well, they do this best and they do that. And remember us saying last year, I'm like, there wasn't really a runaway promotion of the year, but I was like, my vote would have went for X. And I was like, and I don't know that I could tell you why. That's just what my gut tells me that it is. But it's also why we said Turnbuckle, it's different. It's not Southern Honor. It's different. But there are a lot of similarities of vibes, feels, and things that are going on there that I can compare to say this is what separates them a little bit. Disruptor has things that sets them apart. I look, unfortunately, there are a lot of promotions that they're the same. Like, it is really the same. And it's tough, but Gary nailed it. That's why I wanted to read it literally as I saw it. I'm like, Gary Lamb nailed it as usual when it comes to the rest. Like, it's somebody's got to be the different than.
Yeah, and it's and yeah, and I don't know who that's gonna be because from what I see from promotions and promoters, I see some of them that there's no. I don't know that they have the capacity to change. They kind of they know what they know and they do what they do. And I'm not saying they don't do it well, but and then I think there's others that I think there's some people that are just delusional of what they think, their perception of everything. I'm like, are you watching the same thing I'm watching?
Some people are just comfortable.
Yes. Yes. Comfortable. That's a good word. And this is hard. Listen, we're two armchair quarterbacks, and we're talking about people who are putting their money on the line. They're putting their bodies on the line. It's not easy. It's not easy what they're doing.
Yeah.
But I do think who's it going to be? And I think the promotion that shakes things up, when they shake things up, that's where everybody's going to want to work. And then you fall into the danger of looking like everybody else. Once again, I'm sure we will have a lot more to say about this. And where would you find that? You would find that at Patreon, patreon.com/tappedoutpod. It's where you can watch the Georgia Wrestling Spotlight every single week for free. Create a free account. When you create a free account, you can go in there and you can see all the different posts we've had. And you can see, if I'm a $1 level, $2 level, $5 level, this is what I get. And you never know when we're going to throw up Patreon episodes. But if you become a paid member, you get the show notes, which are vast, especially the Spotlight show notes that we can't get to it all. You get the shows early, and you get a lot of great stuff. We still got the Georgia Wrestling Spotlight coming this week. Any insight into what you and Myron are going to be talking about on the Tapped Out show?
I do. I'm going to send out literally as we finish recording on Monday. So it's going to be a short window because we record obviously on. I think we're recording Wednesday. I don't even know this week. I'll have to figure that part out. I'm going to do. So I just listened to an episode of Eric Bischoff where they did a lot of what ifs. This week will be what if with the Tapped Out Wrestling podcast. We're going to get. I'm going to specifically narrow it down. I'm going to send out. Look, by the time you are listening to this, we would have already recorded, so don't do it. But I think what we're going to do is when you're listening tomorrow, we're going to discuss the what if scenarios in the WWF/E if certain things did or did not happen. And like we're going to book forward, not necessarily book, but how does things look different if these things happened? It was a fascinating. If you haven't listened to 83 Weeks, I'm going to try to stay away. So if we get a lot of the same ones, I'll probably push those aside. But we specifically, I sent a couple people questions and I got some already, and I'm intrigued about how those are going to play out. We may chatter a little bit at the beginning like normal, but then we'll get into the what if episode this week.
Nice. Well, fans, I am blown away every week when I see how many people are watching these shows. Just absolutely blown away. I'm humbled. I'm so grateful for this platform to just kind of get all these thoughts out of my head about independent wrestling. And fans, the independent wrestling scene is alive and well. Even though we talk about wanting to improve it, there's so much wrestling, there's so much entertainment, so many opportunities to connect with these folks who are getting ready to go to other bigger wrestling companies. They're getting ready to go to greener pastures. So make sure you get out, buy a ticket, and maybe, just maybe, if you're lucky, we'll see you at the matches.